This video is brought to you by Mint Mobile. So this is the OnePlus 12 and I've been using it for just about 3 weeks, almost a month now. I want to give you guys my thoughts, my review after that time. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Starting with the build and design, it does have an overall very comfortable and sleek look to it. I do have this in the emerald green. There is a black colorway available as well as a white, but that I believe is only in China or in the Asian market. But internationally, you do get a green color as well as a black color. This green is emerald green, so it almost looks like a marble table that's colored green. It does look pretty clean, unique, and on the camera bump, you do have a bit of a glitter and a shine to it. It's kind of interesting. I'm not a huge fan of the glitter look, and I'm also not a huge fan of the aluminum frame that's built on the camera bump itself. It just picks up a lot of fingerprints and ends up looking kind of greasy and almost a bit rusty color as well. It's not my favorite look, but it's also pretty unique overall. The camera housing is pretty big though, so when you go to put it down on the table, it does rock a good bit. So I definitely would recommend some kind of case to help try and eliminate that issue where it rocks on the table. The phone itself is overall pretty comfortable to hold in the hand. It has increased in weight though. It is much heavier compared to the OnePlus 11 of previous years. It does weigh well around 220 grams. It's not the heaviest. There's definitely heavier phones out there, but this definitely weighs a lot more compared to last year. It's also overall just a bit bigger, wider, taller compared to previous OnePlus devices as well. So it just got bigger overall. But it still remains rounded and curved on the edges, the corners. It does have a glossy aluminum frame, and it does use Corning Gorilla Glass Victus 2 on the front glass at least to protect it from any drops and scratches. And you also do get a pre-installed plastic screen protector on the display when you unbox it, which is pretty nice. So it helps protect it from small minor scratches, which is what I typically tend to do with my devices. Is if I can install a screen protector, whether it be a plastic or anything, I would try to. But with all that being said, the phone is super slippery. Yes, it feels comfortable in the hand, but it's just very soft and very slippery. It just slips out of my hand super easily. As much as I love to hold it without a case, I have to use a case sometimes because it just becomes super slippery. So whenever I go out, I definitely put a case on this because this thing is probably going to slip out of my pocket super easily. And the whole phone is IP65 water and dust resistant rated, so it is able to withstand some splashes. For example, I use this when I'm washing the dishes or washing my hands, or maybe I'm in the shower watching a video. If it gets splashed, it's just fine. It also does have a new aquatic display where if you were to use this when your hands are wet, or if again you drip water on this or splash water on this, it is able to understand and withstand with the software, know that there's some kind of liquid on here, and it'll help prevent those accidental touches and still make the display usable even though your hand is a bit wet. It works for the most part okay. It's definitely better than other devices, but other devices tend to do a pretty okay job already. So I would say it's not a massive improvement, but it definitely can see a bit of a difference. Looking at the rest of the hardware, you do have your buttons on the right-hand side now. So both the volume rocker and the power button are on one side, that being the right-hand side. The power button is right below the volume rocker. This is pretty much the exact same way that it is on the S24 Ultra and other Galaxy devices. So if you're a fan of that, cool. If not, it is different from last year's and it can be a bit of a learning curve at first, but I personally like it because if you're watching videos and you're trying to prop your device up, whichever side you put your device on, it sometimes can accidentally click that button. So with the buttons being on one side, it helps prevent that issue. And you still do have the alert slider. It's on the left-hand side now, all on its own. And I personally appreciate it. I don't mind it or use it that often, I would say, just because you set it and forget it most of the time, but it does make it pretty convenient to be able to switch between those different sound modes whenever you need to. At the bottom, you do have USB Type-C 3.2. You do have dual firing speakers, which overall sound pretty good. They get plenty loud and they also have a good amount of depth and bass to them. So overall, for watching videos and movies and listening to the occasional song, it definitely sounds pretty good. Of course, if you want the best sound quality, you definitely want to get something like a portable speaker or use earbuds. And you also have the IR blaster available. Do I use it very often? Not really. I think I used it maybe a couple times, and that was just to show it off to a couple of people. Other than that, I actually didn't really use it in real world usage. But if you are someone who travels a lot maybe, or likes to go out to bars and just eat out a lot and you want to control the TVs from other people whose controller you don't have access to, well, then you can easily do that with the OnePlus 12. Me personally, like I said, I don't really use it. And then lastly, you do have a physical SIM card slot, which you're able to actually use 2 physical SIM cards if you wanted to. And that leads me to just connections and mobile data. Overall, I've had little to no issues with my data, Wi-Fi, calls, texting. Everything has been working just fine with the OnePlus 12, which leads me to today's video partner, Mint Mobile. So have you ever thought to yourself, why the is my phone bill so damn high? Well, I got you covered with Mint. Mint offers premium wallets for as low as $15 a month. And actually right now, this month, every plan that they offer is $15 a month. So you can get their unlimited plan, which is normally $30 a month. So that's 50% off an already good price. And with Mint, you don't have to sacrifice speed, data, or coverage because they're built on the largest 5G network. And Mint Mobile is actually able to keep prices so damn low because they actually have no physical locations. Everything is done online. So you're able to easily go online, select the plan that you want, and then select whether you want an eSIM or a physical SIM card. And Mint offers a modern family plan with as little as 2 lines. And that's actually what my family does. Everyone is put together into a family plan. And switching to Mint is super easy. It takes as little as 15 minutes to pay as low as $15 a month. And I personally don't even notice the difference between my Wi-Fi speeds and my data. So I've been having a good overall experience. In fact, I've been a Mint Mobile customer for well over 3.5 years now, and I recently signed up for my next year plan, and I've been having a good experience, so I don't plan on leaving Mint anytime soon. So why wait? Don't let the big carriers take advantage of you anymore. Use my link down in the description, trymintmobile.com/tacotech, or scan the QR code on the screen to get yourself started right away. So let me know if you made the switch to Mint down in the comments below. As far as the display, you do get a 6.8 inch 120 Hz 1440p dynamic AMOLED display, 120 Hz. It's a phenomenal display overall. I have little to no complaints with the display quality on the OnePlus 12. It's a flagship level display. It's what you want. It's got deep blacks, good colors overall, accurate colors, vivid colors if you want vivid, natural colors if you want natural. It's overall a solid looking display. It's smooth with the 120 Hz, and you're actually able to switch between an automatic mode, which switches between the 60 Hz standard mode and also the high 120 Hz mode. Personally, I like to just keep it on 120 Hz high mode, try to keep the best refresh rate possible because I paid the big bucks. I want the best refresh rate available. But either way, you have that option available. You also can do the same thing with your resolution. So if you want to switch between the 1080p and the 1440p, depending on what's on your display, you can do that as well. I personally actually do that because I don't notice a massive difference usually from the 1080p to the 1440p. So when I'm watching videos, I assume and I hope that it's switching to 1440p, but when I'm just scrolling social media, 1080p is more than fine. And the brightness has increased as well with the OnePlus 12. You do get 1600 nits of high brightness mode. So that's typically what you'll see at most in your everyday experience. But when you go outside or when you're watching an HDR video, you are able to potentially get a peak brightness of 4500 nits. With the OnePlus 12, you do now have a more enhanced versions of the eye comfort shield. So you now have the ability to use a bedtime mode version, which adjusts the color temperature throughout the day to match it to the daytime environment. So basically in the morning, cooler colors, cooler temperature versus in the afternoon, and towards the night, it'll become a lot warmer. You also have the adaptive mode now too, which also works with trying to adjust the color and temperature of the display based on the lighting environment around you. You have pretty minimum intrusions and bezels on here, but I will say you still have a curved display. Not a huge fan of curved displays. They're okay. They feel pretty nice when you're swiping around and using that back gesture, but sometimes you do accidentally get just a swipe with your excessive scan. So my palm sometimes accidentally causes a swipe or causes the screen to scroll up or down. It can be a little bit annoying, but using a case does help prevent that. And just to note, the camera now is at the center of the display versus being on the left-hand side in the corner. And the always on display is still available here, so if you like to use that, you do still have that capabilities. Now, talking about biometrics, you do have facial recognition as well as your fingerprint sensor, which I'm pretty sure they have not changed for quite a bit. And overall, it's okay. I think the fingerprint sensor, I usually tend to have a good amount of issues with it. Not tremendously a lot, like usually on the third try, it'll work at most. Usually it takes retries at most. But for the most part, it is able to recognize me, and once it does recognize me, it's pretty quick to get me in. Same thing with the facial recognition. It works for the most part 95% of the times. There's sometimes angles or certain lighting environments or certain distances that it may not recognize me right away. Even when I set it up, it was kind of weird. It set it up and it recognized me even though my face was not even fully in the circle. And I actually haven't had any issues with it, which is good. I haven't had any issues with the biometrics, with the facial recognition, which is fine. But overall biometrics, I think they could be better, especially the fingerprint sensor and maybe a more secure facial recognition. But for the most part, they get the job done. Now, as far as performance, you do have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X RAM, at least on this model. And then you have 256 up to 512 gigabytes of storage of UFS 4.0. It's overall very, very good performance. I don't know what else you want to hear other than you're not going to have any issues when it comes to performance and also the efficiency of this device. I don't think I ever felt this phone getting super hot or super warm at all. The most it ever got warm was when I was setting it up and downloading and installing a bunch of apps. That's when it did get warm, and that's the warmest it ever got. Other than that, every other day, it's been perfect. It's been a solid experience. Apps open up super quick and are snappy. Even large, heavy apps perform really well on this device. Gaming, camera usage, all that stuff, it all works really well. And it also ties down to the, I believe it's called the new Trinity engine system that they have, where the software, the hardware, the battery all work together to efficiently provide the correct amount of power that's needed to make sure that the phone runs not only cool. I think it also has a new cooling chamber as well in here. All those hardware improvements for the everyday person, it really does make a difference. You could buy this phone and honestly think this is probably an iPhone, just disguised as some kind of weird Android device, because this performs just as well as my iPhone 15 Pro Max or the iPhone 14 Pro Max I used last year. Now, as far as software, it is Android 14 with Oxygen OS 14. It's the skin on top of Android 14. And for the most part, Oxygen OS is good. It's definitely a solid launcher experience and overall software experience. You definitely got a lot of customizable options and settings that you can mess with and play with. And you get the usual Android stuff that you can move apps around anywhere on your home screen. But there's a small couple of things that I feel like they are either overlooking or they just missed when they were quality controlling testing the software. So one thing is definitely the lock screen. There's not much customizable options here. There's really nothing you can do besides just change the left-hand side icon for a quick launcher. It just launches 6 or so different options, and there's not many options you could choose from. If you could choose any app, that'd be great. And also if you're able to choose something different for the right-hand side icon, even though there's the camera, usually I leave it as the camera, but knowing that I have the option to change it is pretty nice. And I know I keep complaining about this, but I'm going to keep complaining about this because it's kind of annoying. So with notifications, whenever you receive one, it will display on your lock screen. And then once you unlock your device and you know that it's there, and then you close your device again, and then you turn on your phone again to see your notifications on your lock screen, it's not there anymore. Why? I don't know. I guess Oxygen OS thinks that because you saw it unlock your device, you may have already interacted with it or you're already aware of it. Half the time, yes, I am aware of the notification, but other half of the time, I'll just unlock my device because I want to do something real quick and then lock it back up. And when I go to unlock it again, there's no notifications. So I'm like, oh, I have nothing to worry about. And then there's notifications that I missed because it didn't display them on the lock screen. It's kind of annoying. It doesn't even show the icons at the very top of the display. Like once you unlock your phone, it'll show you the icons at the very top of the notifications you have. It doesn't even do that on the lock screen. So it really does a good job of hiding notifications from you on the lock screen. I wish there was options and settings to be able to customize and change that, but again, there aren't any. And something minor that keeps on happening is that the bedtime mode and focus mode still don't turn on and off with the schedule that I have set for them. Usually what happens is that I'll unlock my device and it's past that scheduled time, so it either should be already off or should already be on, and they're still not turned on or off. And once it realizes that, oh my God, I should be on or off, it quickly turns itself on or turns itself off once it realizes that I'm unlocking the device. But otherwise, those are honestly my main complaints when it comes to Oxygen OS. Everything else about it works just fine. It works fantastic. Like I said, a lot of small different things you can tweak and customize within the Oxygen OS system, within the software, and it's overall a clean and fast and snappy experience. Is it the best out there? I would say no. I definitely don't think it's my favorite personally when it comes to the overall usage and experience, but it definitely does provide you with a lot of options. But those small bugs tend to make the experience just a little bit frustrating for me. But I'll go more in depth in a separate video on a what's on my OnePlus 12 video. So if you want to check that out, please let me know down in the comments. But either way, I think I will make it just for fun, just to talk about what I have on my device and how the software works and some settings, and just go more in depth again with Oxygen OS. So talking about the software updates though, you are able to get 4 years of major OS updates and 5 years of security updates, which is plenty enough. I still think that's still the solid amount that you should be offering for any device when it comes to the manufacturers offering it to the consumers, because that's plenty of life for users to take advantage of the performance, the experience, the cameras, everything that they have available on the OnePlus 12 and just any device that you buy. Now, as far as the cameras, you do get a solid experience here. For the price that you're paying, I'm more than satisfied with what I'm getting. It could be better in some certain lighting conditions and situations, but for the most part, I am very happy with what I'm seeing here. I personally am just a point and shoot kind of person. There's no editing, there's no raw pro modes, master modes that I'm using personally. It's all the standard default settings, and I just point and shoot and not really hope for the best, but hope that the OnePlus 12 or just the phone that I'm using does a really good job with the processing. Now, starting with the front, Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. It does a decent job, especially in normal daylight situations. There are times though where it does make me look a little bit washed out. It doesn't make me look exactly to what I look like when it comes to my skin color, but for the most part, it gets the job done. And also with the bokeh effect, does a pretty decent job. I also did notice though that it does tend to sometimes look like it's not in focus. It could be that certain small objects maybe may have caused it to be out of focus or something, but there were a couple shots where it just didn't look like I was fully centered and in focus. In low light situations, it does tend to suffer a good bit. I mean, most front cameras tend to do as well on other devices. It does get noisy, but what else do you expect? As far as video, I love that you can finally shoot in 4K videos, so the most important thing here is that you get more detail. Well, it doesn't do the best when it comes to different environments and changing environments sometimes. And in very sunny, bright environments, it can overexpose certain areas. And also in low light situations, it just looks like a mess. There's little to no detail there. The grain is horrendous and it just looks very noisy. So it does get the job done though in normal conditions. I just wouldn't trust this to be my main camera if I'm using this for something very important. Now, as far as the back cameras, overall, very happy with them as well. I think for the most part, the main lens does the best job here. But overall, the ultra wide and the telephoto do a decent job. The biggest thing that I personally notice when using these cameras is that when you're shifting between the ultra wide to the wide and then to the telephoto, there does tend to be a bit of a color shift where the temperature itself tends to be a little bit different. So on the ultra wide, it tends to be a bit cooler, bluer looking, but then once you switch to the main lens, it does tend to look a bit warmer. So there is a shift there. So you can't always rely on the one lens if you're looking for a specific look, because you may not like the look that the ultra wide does, or may not like the look that the wide does. So it really does become a bit of an annoyance, just because when you take different photos at those different focal lengths, you expect it to be the same. So it does get annoying, but that's what you get out of the OnePlus 12 when it comes to that. You do get a lot of detail though in a lot of these photos. You get good, sharp quality look to them. I also noticed that once you switch to the telephoto, in indoor situations or low light situations, it does tend to make photos a lot darker. There's not enough light coming in to the sensor to make it a little bit brighter, so it does struggle inside when you're trying to use that 3x telephoto. But with this new 3x, you are able to zoom into 6x and still get a solid optical quality image. And it does have the maximum capabilities of then zooming in up to 120x. Why would you do this? I don't know. Just to show it off, just to play with it, maybe yes, that's fine. But to actually take a photo with it and plan to use it for something, I highly doubt you would ever have a plan to use it for something, because it just looks horrible. I think at maybe 60x at most. Anything past that, it doesn't look great. Anything before that, you could potentially use for something, or maybe use it to capture some kind of verbiage on a sign or something. But otherwise, I just don't really see a usage for going and zooming in that far. The video quality on the OnePlus 12 is overall pretty solid as well. Again, when it comes to normal daylight situations, you are able to get a pretty solid experience here, a solid quality look to it. But again, the color shifting does come into play here. And I'm also not a huge fan of the way the OnePlus 12 does make you zoom in and zoom out when you're using the video mode. I don't know why they use a slider. Why isn't there predefined focal lengths or zoom levels? It just makes it annoying. Just trying to precisely zoom in or quickly zoom into something is annoying, because you have to use that slider, hold it, and it slowly shifts itself in. Sometimes it can be quick if you're holding it for a long time. It'll be like, oh, you're trying to zoom in pretty far, pretty quickly, and it'll zoom in. But otherwise, it's annoying. It's such a pain to use a slider over using predefined zoom levels. But for the most part, the video, like I said, does look pretty good, especially on the main lens. But once you get inside and in low light situations, the ultra wide becomes really noisy on the edges and the corners, and just overall loses some sharpness. So I would definitely stick to the main lens when it comes to shooting indoors or in a not super well lit environment. And you are able to use the 3x telephoto with 4K video now. So you are able to zoom in to a maximum of 18x digitally zoomed. Beforehand with the OnePlus 11, you were capped out at 10x because it wasn't able to use that telephoto at all for 4K video. Now you can with the OnePlus 12. Is it amazing? Is it great? It does improve it a bit and helps a bit when it comes to trying to zoom in on something, especially again, if you're in a normal daylight situation. Zooming in at night, it really doesn't make a difference because it looks pretty bad. So overall, camera quality, pretty good on the OnePlus 12. Definitely not, again, not the best and not my favorite when it comes to being the most versatile out there, but it gets the job done. If I had this in my pocket and I had to shoot some kind of quick video or a quick photo or something to save it for a memory, I wouldn't be dissatisfied using the OnePlus 12. Lastly, battery life. The OnePlus 12 is phenomenal. I don't know how they're doing it, but The battery life is just fantastic on here. So you do have a 5,400 milliamp hour battery, so they did increase the size of the battery life physically. But with the new Trinity engine that they're using, the whole new system that they're using, as well as the new cooling system, it's doing an amazing job. All those new enhancements, plus the battery size increase, really does make this phone probably one of the best phones out there when it comes to battery life. I'm able to easily get at minimum 20 hours of total usage. Maybe on a very, very heavy usage day, you may get maybe 16 hours, but you're probably going to be racking up that screen on time to about maybe 8 or maybe even 10 hours screen on time. I'm able to get, usually on my typical day-to-day, week-to-week experience, it's been a day in like a couple hours. So a day, 5 hours, a day, 4 hours, a day, 9 hours at most. It's very good. I am not worried a second about battery when it comes to OnePlus 12. Even with different settings set up to the point that you're trying to push this to the maximum limit, you'll still be getting a good battery life experience. So battery anxiety does not exist with the OnePlus 12. But if for some reason you do, if one day is not enough for you and you still have battery anxiety, well, lucky for you, you still have Super VOOC fast charging available with the OnePlus 12. Now, it is a proprietary charger that does come in the box. It does charge the device up to 80 watts, I think 100 watts in some regions, but here in the US, it's only capped at 80 watts. But even then, it takes just about a half hour to fully charge it from 0 to 100%. If you only need to charge it for 15 minutes, you still get a lot of battery out of that charge time. So for me, the battery life experience, the charging experience is phenomenal. Not to mention that they bring back wireless charging. So you're now able to wirelessly charge your device if you want to. If you use a proprietary Super VOOC charger that they have, you're able to get up to 50 watts of fast charging wirelessly, which is really fast compared to the competition when it comes to just wired charging. But unfortunately, you don't have the new QI2 standards, which uses magnets on here. I think it might just be because of the speeds that it's only capable of, I think, 15 watts or so of charging. So in the end, the OnePlus 12, well worth the money. If you want the best bang for the buck flagship, not the best bang for the buck, but just the best bang for the buck flagship, this is the one. If you want the best phone available out there, but not paying those $1,000 crazy price tags, then the OnePlus 12 is definitely the one to consider. So with that being said, hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace.